The airport VIP lounge sparkled like a palace made of glass and gold. Rich people sat on cream-colored sofas, sipping fancy drinks. Outside the tall windows, airplanes took off into bright blue sky. Diana Williams walked through the automatic doors, pulling her simple black suitcase behind her. She wore a clean white shirt and black pants. Her hair was pulled back neatly. She looked calm, like someone who had nothing to prove. Then she heard the voice that used to make her cry. Well, look what the cat dragged in. Richard Thornton stood up from his sofa, like a king rising from his throne. His suit probably cost more than most people's cars. Gold watches covered both his wrists. His teeth gleamed white as he smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a shark. Next to him sat Brittany, his new wife. Her hair was so blonde it almost looked white under the lights. She wore a dress covered in sparkles that probably cost a fortune. She giggled behind her hand, like she was watching a funny movie. Diana stopped walking. She didn't run away. She didn't look scared. She just stood there, quiet as a lake before a storm. Diana! Richard called out louder, making sure everyone could hear. Are you sure you belong here? This is the VIP lounge, sweetheart, for very important people. Do you know what VIP means? People started looking up from their phones and magazines. Whispers spread like wildfire. Richard walked closer, his expensive shoes clicking on the marble floor. Last time I saw you, you were living in that tiny apartment. Remember? The one with the leaky ceiling. He laughed. Please tell me you didn't sneak in here. Security gets really mad about that. Diana's face didn't change. Not one bit. Brittany stood up too, wobbling on her high heels. Richard, honey, maybe we should... No. This is perfect, Richard interrupted. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to post this on social media. Guess who I ran into trying to pretend she's rich? He started typing, grinning like a kid in a candy store. Diana finally spoke. Her voice was soft but strong, like steel wrapped in silk. Are you finished, Richard? Finished. Richard laughed so hard he nearly dropped his phone. Oh, I'm just getting started. Do you remember how you begged me not to divorce you? Crying. And now you're here, probably using your last pennies to sit in a VIP lounge for 5 minutes, so you can take pictures and... I asked if you were finished, Diana repeated. Something in her voice made Richard pause, just for a second. Because I have a flight to catch, Diana continued. Singapore, private terminal. My jet should be ready soon. The whole lounge went quiet. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop hissing. Richard's laugh sounded fake now. Your jet? Oh, this is rich. Diana, stop embarrassing yourself. You don't have an $80 million Gulfstream G650, Diana said calmly, fully customized. I bought it last year. Brittany's mouth fell open. Richard's face turned red. You're lying. There's no way you could. I own a consulting company, Diana said, looking Richard straight in the eyes. We have offices in 12 countries. Last year, we made 9 figures in revenue. That means over $100 million, Richard. In case you forgot how to count that high. The whispers got louder. People started pulling out their phones, but not to laugh at Diana. They were Googling her name. 9 figures. Richard sputtered. That's impossible. You had nothing when we divorced. I made sure of that. I kept the house, the cars, everything. You left with 1 suitcase. Yes, Diana said quietly. I did. And with that 1 suitcase, I built something you could never understand. Something real. Richard's hands were shaking now. You're bluffing. This is some kind of trick. You probably borrowed someone's jet for a photo shoot, or... The automatic doors whooshed open. A tall man, in a perfectly pressed suit, walked in. He carried a leather briefcase that looked older than both Richard and Diana combined. His hair was silver, and his eyes were sharp like an eagle's. Everyone turned to look at him. Mrs. Williams, the man said, nodding to Diana with respect. I am David Morrison, your attorney. I apologize for being late. Attorney? Richard said, his voice cracking. What do you need an attorney for? Morrison looked at Richard the way someone might look at a bug on the sidewalk. "Mr. Thornton, how unfortunate to meet you." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. "I have here several documents that concern you directly." "Documents?" Richard tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. "What kind of documents?" Morrison's smile was colder than winter ice. "Tax enforcement orders, Labor Department complaints, 17 harassment lawsuits, and a rather interesting investigation by the Financial Journal into your business practices." The color drained from Richard's face like water down a sink. Diana picked up her suitcase. "Goodbye, Richard." "Wait!" Richard shouted. "Wait, what is this? What's happening?" But Diana was already walking away, Morrison beside her, leaving Richard standing frozen in the middle of the VIP lounge. Outside the window, an enormous private jet gleamed in the sunlight, waiting. Morrison set his briefcase on a nearby table with a soft thunk. The sound was quiet, but in the silent VIP lounge, it felt like thunder. Richard's face had gone from red to white to a sick greenish color. "This is ridiculous," he said, but his voice shook. "You can't just walk in here with fake papers and—" "Fake?" Morrison raised one silver eyebrow. "Mr. Thornton, I've been practicing law for 37 years. I don't do fake." He pulled out the first document. "This is from the Tax Revenue Service. You owe $4.2 million, with penalties and interest." Brittany gasped. "Richard, you said everything was fine with our taxes." "It is fine," Richard snapped, but sweat was forming on his forehead. "This is obviously a mistake. Diana probably paid someone to—" "And this," Morrison continued, laying out another paper, "is from the Department of Labor. 43 employees claim you never paid their overtime. Some haven't been paid in 3 months." A woman sitting nearby looked up sharply. She pulled out her phone and started recording. Richard noticed. "Stop that. You can't record this." He lunged toward her, but Morrison stepped between them. "I wouldn't," Morrison said quietly. "Assault on video won't help your legal situation." Diana stood near the window, watching the scene like someone watching clouds pass by. Calm, patient, waiting. "Let me tell you a story, Richard," she said softly. Everyone leaned in to hear. 5 years ago, when you divorced me, you took everything. The house we built together, the car I drove, even the coffee maker my mother gave us as a wedding gift. "You didn't deserve any of it," Richard muttered. Diana continued as if he hadn't spoken. "You told everyone I was lazy, that I never worked, that I lived off your money like a parasite." Her voice didn't shake. She was just stating facts. "Do you remember what you said on our last day together?" Richard said nothing. "You said, 'You'll never be anything without me. You'll see.'" Brittany looked at her husband with new eyes, like she was seeing a stranger. "That night," Diana said, "I slept in my car, a 2003 Honda with a broken heater. It was January. I wrapped myself in an old blanket and cried until the sun came up. For the first time, Richard looked uncomfortable. The next morning, I made a promise to myself. I would build something so big, so strong, that no one could ever take it away from me again." Diana walked to the table where Morrison had spread the documents. "I started with nothing. I rented an office so small I could touch both walls of my arm spread out. 2 square meters. I had 1 desk, 1 chair, 1 computer I bought from a pawn shop. Someone in the lounge whispered, 'I read about her. She's the CEO of Williams Global Consulting.' I worked 20 hours a day," Diana continued. "I ate instant noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I wore the same 3 outfits for 2 years. Every single penny I made went back into my business." She picked up one of Morrison's documents. "While I was building my company, Richard, you were busy too. Busy threatening people. Busy stealing wages. Busy being cruel." Morrison pulled out his phone and held it up. "With Mrs. Williams's permission, I'll read from some messages Mr. Thornton sent to her employees after they left his company to work for hers." Richard's eyes went wide. "You can't, those are private." "Actually," Morrison said, "threatening messages lose their privacy protection. Shall I begin?" He didn't wait for an answer. This is to Jessica Martinez, dated March 15th. If you think working for that woman will save you, you're wrong. I know where you live. I know where your kids go to school. Gasps filled the lounge. I never, Richard stammered. There's a recording. Morrison said simply, voicemail, save, backed up in 3 locations. He scrolled. Here's one to Carmen Rodriguez. Tell Diana she's finished. I'll make sure no bank ever gives her a loan. No investor ever takes her call. She should have stayed in her place. Brittany had gone pale. She stood up slowly, grabbing her designer purse. I need some air. Sit down, Richard barked. Don't speak to her like that, Diana said sharply. It was the first time her voice had real fire in it. You don't get to bark orders anymore, Richard. Not to her. Not to anyone. Morrison continued, relentless as rain. The Financial Journal investigation is particularly damning. They've been following Mr. Thornton's business practices for 18 months. Bribery, fraud, intimidation. The article publishes Monday morning. Richard's phone started buzzing, then buzzing more. Then it rang constantly, vibrating on the table like an angry hornet. He grabbed it. His face went from green to gray. What? Brittany asked. What is it? My board of directors, Richard whispered. They're calling an emergency meeting. They want me to resign. Probably wise, Morrison said. The federal investigation tends to make boards nervous. Federal? Richard's voice cracked completely. Morrison nodded. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division. They're very interested in your offshore accounts. The ones you thought were hidden. The documents kept coming, spreading across the table like a deadly hand of cards, each one worse than the last. Tax evasion, guaide fraude, money laundering, witness intimidation. This isn't happening, Richard said, but he was talking to himself now. This can't be happening. Diana checked her watch. Morrison, what time is our flight? Wheels up in 30 minutes, ma'am. Perfect. Diana turned to leave, then paused. She looked back at Richard one last time. You were right about one thing, she said quietly. I would never have become this without you. Your cruelty taught me strength. Your theft taught me to build what couldn't be stolen. Your hatred taught me that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. She picked up her simple black suitcase. Enjoy your emergency board meeting, Richard. I'm sure it will be very interesting. Morrison gathered his papers with quick, efficient movements. Mr. Thornton, you'll be served officially within 48 hours. I suggest you retain excellent legal counsel. You're going to need it. As they walked toward the exit, Richard found his voice one last time. You can't do this to me. I am Richard Thornton. I'm a millionaire. Diana stopped at the door. She didn't turn around. You were a millionaire, Richard. Past tense. The automatic doors closed behind her with a gentle whoosh. Richard stood alone in the center of the VIP lounge, surrounded by strangers with their phones out, recording everything. Outside, an $80 million jet waited on the tarmac, gleaming like a silver dream against the blue sky. Diana walked across the tarmac, the afternoon sun warm on her face. Her simple black suitcase rolled smoothly behind her. Morrison walked beside her, his silver hair gleaming in the light. The Gulfstream G650 was beautiful, sleek and silver, with Williams Global painted in elegant letters on the side. The stairs were down, and a flight attendant in a crisp uniform smiled and waved. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Williams, the attendant said. Diana climbed the stairs. At the top, she paused and looked back at the terminal building. Through the glass windows, she could see Richard. He was on his phone, pacing back and forth like a trapped animal. His face was red again. He was shouting at someone. Diana didn't feel happy watching him suffer. She didn't feel sad either. She just felt free. Ready, ma'am? The pilot called from the cockpit. Ready, Diana said. She stepped inside her jet. Cream leather seats, polished wood tables, soft carpet under her feet. But the best part wasn't how fancy it was. The best part was that it was hers. Really hers. No one could take it away. Morrison settled into a seat and opened his laptop. Singapore office called. They're excited about the new contract. $300 million over 5 years. Diana smiled. A real smile this time, not the careful mask she'd worn in the lounge. Good. That means we can hire 50 more people and expand the scholarship program. The one for young women entrepreneurs? Especially for black women. Diana said firmly, women who've been told they can't, who've been pushed down, who've been left with nothing. She looked out the window as the jet began to move. I want to make sure they have what I didn't, a real chance from the start. The jet picked up speed, racing down the runway. Then, with a gentle lift, they were airborne. Diana watched the airport get smaller and smaller below. Somewhere down there, Richard was probably still shouting into his phone, still trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. But Diana was flying towards something new. 6 months later, the Forbes magazine cover showed Diana, in a sharp navy suit, standing in front of her Singapore office. The headline read, CEO of the Year, How Diana Williams Built an $800 million Empire from Nothing. Diana held a magazine in her office, the real office, not the tiny 2-square-meter room where she'd started. This office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Awards lined the shelves. Photos of her team, her offices around the world, her scholarship recipients. Her assistant knocked on the door. Mrs. Williams? You have a call from the mayor. Something about the new community center you're funding. Put her through, Diana said. As she waited, she glanced at her other monitor. A news website showed a small article at the bottom of the page. Former CEO Richard Thornton sentenced to 8 years for fraud and tax evasion. 8 years. His company had collapsed completely. The mansion, sold to pay debts. The cars, auctioned. Brittany had divorced him 3 months ago and taken what little remained. Diana closed the browser. She didn't need to read more. Someone had once told her that revenge was like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. But this wasn't revenge. This was justice. And more importantly, it was transformation. Diana had taken every ounce of pain Richard gave her and turned it into power. Not the cruel kind of power he'd had. The kind that hurt people and took things. Real power. The kind that built schools. Created jobs. Gave hope. Her phone buzzed. A text from Carmen, one of the employees Richard had threatened. Boss, we just landed the Tokyo account. The whole team is celebrating. Diana smiled and typed back, amazing work. Dinner's on me. Take everyone somewhere nice. Another text came in, this time from Jessica. My daughter got accepted to college. The scholarship you gave her made it possible. Thank you for believing in us. Diana felt warmth spread through her chest. This was what mattered, not expensive jets or magazine covers. People, lives changed, futures built. She stood and walked to her window. The city stretched out before her, full of millions of people. People struggling, working, dreaming. Some of them were probably in tiny offices right now, eating instant noodles, wondering if they'd make it. Diana remembered being that person. Crying in a cold car, thinking the world had ended, but the world hadn't ended. It had just changed shape, and she had changed with it. The lesson, that night, Diana spoke at a university. 2,000 students filled the auditorium. Most of them were young women. Many of them were black, brown, wearing hijabs, speaking with accents, all the people society sometimes forgot about. Someone once told me I'd never be anything without him. Diana said into the microphone. Her voice was steady and strong. He was wrong, but not because I proved him wrong. He was wrong because my worth was never his to decide in the first place. The students erupted in applause. When people are cruel to you, Diana continued, you have 2 choices. You can become cruel back. Spend your life trying to hurt them the way they hurt you. Or you can take that pain and build something beautiful with it. She paused, looking out at all those young, hopeful faces. I chose to build. I built a company. I built a team. I built a life where I wake up excited instead of afraid. And now, I'm building bridges for others to cross, bridges that didn't exist when I needed them. More applause, louder this time. "The best revenge isn't destruction," Diana said, her voice soft but carrying to every corner of the room. "The best revenge is creation. Build something so amazing that people can't help but notice. Live so well that your success becomes undeniable. And then, and this is the most important part, reach back and pull someone else up with you." She smiled. "That's real power. That's real victory. That's real strength." The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. Later, as Diana drove home in her simple car, she still drove herself, even though she could afford a dozen chauffeurs. She thought about Richard one last time. She didn't hate him anymore. She almost felt grateful because his cruelty had revealed something she might never have discovered otherwise. She was stronger than she'd ever imagined, and that strength had been inside her all along, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. Diana pulled into her driveway. Not a mansion, just a nice, comfortable house with a garden. Home. She was free, truly free. And tomorrow, she'd wake up and do it all again. Build more, help more, create more. Because that's what real winners do. They don't just survive. They thrive. Did this story inspire you? Did it make you feel something powerful? If Diana's journey from a cold car to an $800 million empire moved you, like this story, if you believe in turning pain into power and building instead of destroying, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories about people who rose from nothing to become unstoppable forces of nature, subscribe so you never miss the next incredible tale. Remember, your worth is not decided by the people who left you. Your power is not measured by what was taken from you. Your future is built by what you create today. Now, go out there and build your empire. We'll be here, cheering you on. Like, share, subscribe. Let's rise together.